Islam, Part 2, The Faith and Practice of Islam. There are 6 articles of faith. Article number 1 deals with Allah. There is no God but God, Allah, and Muhammad is the messenger or prophet of Allah. This is the most important article in Muslim theology. God is one and is creator and judge. He is all-seeing, all-knowing, all-powerful. He is the sole arbiter who shall save the believer out of dissolution of the world and the place in paradise. The Quran is not consistent in the matter of free will, but there are more suggestions of predestination. One quote, "Whomsoever God will, he leads astray, and whomsoever he will, he sets him on the straight path." Allah reveals his will and guides men in 3 distinct ways: through Muhammad, his messenger, through the Quran, his revelation, and through the angels. That brings us to Article 2, which talks about angels. There is a hierarchy of angels who are created of light. The most important ones are Gabriel, the agent of revelation, who transmitted the Quran to Muhammad. Then Asrafel, who will sound the trumpet on the day of judgment. Azrael, the angel of death. The devil, called Iblis, a contraction of Diabolos, or Shaitan, in Hebrew Satan, is an angel who fell through pride and is now an accused tempter. He and his assistants busy themselves on earth to obstruct the plans of Allah. There are also spirits called jinn, which have created from fire that for the most part are evil and cause troubles, all types of trouble. Article 3 is holy books. The Old Testament is considered sacred and is usually spoken of as 2 books, the Torah, or Book of Law, and Zabur, or Psalms. Muslims claim that the New Testament descended upon Jesus, but insist that the original was taken back by Christ when he ascended into heaven, and the copy now in the hands of Christians has been changed and filled with errors. The Quran is believed to be God's final revelation to man, and therefore supersedes all former sacred books. Muslims claim that the original Quran is in heaven, and the angel Gabriel dictated the contents to Muhammad. Number 4 is the prophets. There are 6 eminent prophets: Adam, the chose of God; Noah, the preacher of God; Abraham, the friend of God; Moses, the speaker of God; Jesus, the word of God; and Muhammad, the apostle of God, who is the last and greatest of all prophets, and supersedes all those who came before. But even with such distinction, no claim is made by Muslims that Muhammad was other than human, even though Allah viewed him with special favor. Article 5 is predestination. According to Muslims, everything that happens, either good or bad, is foreordained by the unchangeable decree of Allah. This not only makes Allah the author of evil, it leads to a fatalistic philosophy of life. Article 6 is the day of judgment. As to the last judgment, Muhammad's revelations contain phrases resembling those of the Christian apocalyptic: signs, strange occurrences in nature, finally the last trumpet, at whose sound the dead will rise and souls will assemble before Allah's judgment throne. The books that have been recorded of each man's deeds will be opened and read, and eternal judgment will be passed accordingly. The will topple off into the fires of hell below, and the good will pass across a bridge as thin as a hair and as sharp as a sword. Paradise is a place of sensual delight, containing restful gardens with every manner of delicious fruits, rivers of wine that do not intoxicate, and beautiful women to be companions of the faithful, which happen to be men only. The 5 religious duties, or the Al-Arkan, known as the 5 pillars. Pillar number 1 is repetition of the creed, Shahada. There is no God but Allah, and Muhammad is the prophet of Allah. Acceptance of this confession of faith and its faithful repetition constitute the first step to being a Muslim. This is the call for the minarets as the muezzins call for prayer. Religious duty number 2 is prayer, or the salat. A good Muslim reserves time for each day for 5 acts of devotion and prayer: dawn, midday, mid-afternoon, sunset, and after the fall of darkness. Wherever he is, the devotee typically goes through a ritual of ablution, of washing face, hands, and feet, rolls out his prayer rug, stands reverently and offers certain prayers, bows down toward Mecca with hands on knees to offer to Allah his submission to his holy will, and then straightens up again, still praising Allah. Then falls prostrate, placing his forehead on the ground, then sits down reverently and offers a petition, and finally prostrates himself once more. Friday is the special day of public prayer for all Muslims, when the faithful assemble in the mosque under the leadership of the imam, usually at noon or sunset. The third religious duty is called almsgiving, or zakat. Its general meaning is that of a free will offering consisting of gifts to the poor, the needy, and various charities. It is now common under Muslim governments for the zakat to be calculated at the rate of 2.5% of the accumulated wealth of a man or his family. Religious duty number 5 is the fast during the sacred month of Ramadan. Ramadan, the 9th month of the Muslim lunar year, is the time the descent of the Quran is supposed to have taken place. No food or drink is to be taken except for the sick until sundown. Number 5 is the pilgrimage, or the Hajj, to Mecca. Once in a lifetime, every Muslim man or woman is expected, unless it is impossible to make a pilgrimage to Mecca. They should arrive in time for joining the thousands of others to observe the circumambulation of the Kaaba. This is a period between the 1st and 12th days of the last month of the lunar year. There are 2 principal ceremonies. The lesser pilgrimage is performed by running around the Kaaba at different speeds, and the greater pilgrimage is a 9-mile journey to Mina, the city of the Arafat Plain. 3 days following this is spent in eating, talking, and merrymaking before returning to Mecca. The political divisions in Islam. Muhammad died unexpectedly without leaving a son or an appointed successor, or caliph. Should the principle of succession be that of heredity, or should the caliphs be elected by and from some properly qualified group? The companions were Muhammad's closest associates, such as Abu Bakr, who ordered the collecting of Muhammad's sayings; Omar, who conquered Syria and Persia; Othman, who ordered a revision of the Quran; and Ali, Muhammad's son-in-law, with whose assassination Islam became permanently divided into sects. Another group were the Muhajirin, or immigrants, supporters, assumed that the caliph should be elected from their number. Another group, the legitimists, following the hereditary principle of succession, thought the caliph should be Muhammad's descendants from Fatima, his daughter, and her husband Ali. Still later, the Umayyad, as the leaders of Muhammad's tribe, sought to be the sole detriments who should occupy the caliphate. There arose a series of different caliphates with wars against each other. The caliphate of the Ottoman Turks began its power in 1299 AD and continued as the chief Muslim power for about 600 years. In 1922, the Sultan of Constantinople was deposed by the Turkish National Assembly. Along with the external political separations, there have arisen within Islam certain notably distinct types of religious experiences and theological formulas. The Sunni sect constitutes the main body of Muslims. They are preeminently the traditionalist. Decisions concerning Muslim behavior were judged on the basis of the Sunnah, the behavior or practice, of Muhammad in Medina, or the perceived principles found in the Quran. Those who adopted this method were called Sunnis or Sunnites. The Sunnis, and Muslims in general, do not distinguish sharply between law and religion, as it is as much as God revealed to Muhammad his will in all matters. The Sunnis adopted the law of Islam, the Sharia, or the Way, as the true path of religion and society. The Turkish Muslims are mostly Sunnis. The Shia sect broke off as a separate movement beginning with the murder of Ali, the son-in-law and cousin of Muhammad. Ali and his two sons, Hassan and Hussein, grandsons of Muhammad, were considered to be the legitimate heirs of the Islamic faith. As martyrs, they were venerated by the Shia Muslims. They are considered Imam Mahdi, divinely appointed and supernaturally guided spiritual leader, endowed by Allah with special knowledge and insight, an assertion that the main body of Muslims regard as heresy. There has been a series of 11 Imam, but a 12th Imam disappeared, but he will return again. Very similar to the Christian belief in the second coming of Jesus, the Shiites did not believe the Quran to be eternal, or meant to be without any freedom of the will. They believed that Allah must be just and holds men responsible only for their own acts. The Shiites are locally located in Iran and Africa. The Baha'i faith. About the middle of the last century, there arose a figure in Persia claiming not to be the expected one, but the forerunner of his appearance. The Bab, as he was called, soon found a following, including a man of wealth and social standing who proclaimed himself as the expected one. He was accepted and called Baha'u'llah, the splendor of God. Baha'u'llah was a prisoner most of his active life, but was finally allowed to travel abroad and succeeded in establishing the new faith in both Europe and America. The group no longer considers itself a branch of Islam, but a New World religion. It believes that God is one, that he has revealed himself in all the 9 great regions of the world through successive prophets, each to his own age. The Baha'i faith claims about 6 million members worldwide, including about 150,000 in the United States. The international headquarters is located in Haifa, Israel. The main office in the United States is in Wilmette, Illinois. There are several elements of strength in Islam. First, its theory is one supreme deity versus idolatry. Its confidence is a really sovereign world ruler. Its principle of utter devotion to the will of God. Its theory of an inescapable just judgment day. Its insistence upon a continuous life of prayer. Its worldwide outlook. A certain strong historic missionary aggressiveness, and a strong unity among believers despite the sects. There are also elements of weakness in Islam. The arbitrariness of its deity, its reliance upon the method of force and conversion and reinforcement, its excessive appeals to motives of fear and reward. It believes in fatalism or kismet, its extremely sensuous future, paradise and hell, its low esteem of women, its lack of a great social program in the world, its inconsistent animism, jinn, devils, Kaaba stone, repetitious prayers, etc. There are some major problems between Christianity and Islam. Historically, there has been an unfortunate relationship between the West and Islamic nations. Muhammad got a false impression of Christianity from his limited contacts with Christian teachings regarding the Trinity, which he thought consisted of God, Mary, and Jesus. Then as Muslim forces swept across North Africa, they found a church woefully torn by division and strife, arguing over minor doctrinal matters. Later, during the Crusades, which were 1090 to 1290, with all of their abuses. This was followed by the colonial period when most of the Muslim nations were under control of Western Christian nations. More recently, the establishing of modern Israel in 1948, particularly through the influence of Christian Britain and the USA, has been a major source of friction between Christendom and the Islam world. There are also cultural barriers. Islam is not only a religion, it is also a social and political system, as we see clearly in the case of Iran. Muslims make little distinction between secular and sacred, between mosque and state. This produces a very tightly knit society that strongly opposes conversion from Islam to any other religion. Converts are severely persecuted and sometimes even put to death. Then there are religious barriers. Muslims, for the most part, are very proud of their faith and extremely fanatical in their loyalty. They feel that Islam is the final truth and is superior to all other religions. To forsake the faith is to become an infidel who can be killed. Muslims are especially prejudiced against Christianity, for the Quran teaches that Christ did not die, was not divine, and the doctrine of the Trinity means that there are three gods for the Christian.